Topic time. Our main topic today is Concord. Now, we are not going to be going through a whining sesh about how sad we are that it's gone, because we've already covered that multiple times over the show. We're going to be going through a cheat sheet, almost, in terms of what has gone on here. So we're going to go through why did this happen, try and dispel a few of the myths that are surrounding this game out there in the community, talk about some of the reasons it may have happened, and we're going to end with a couple of listener questions as well. So we got a lot to go through. It's going to be a bit of a juicer, I think, this one. Although first, I was talking about this when we were playing one of our Concord games, and I was saying that, I might make a jingle, I might make something as like a send-off for Concord. And I've actually done one better. Now, what I'm going to go through for you guys, I have not practiced before, okay? So this could go horrifically wrong, and I feel sorry for you boys to have to sit through this, but I give you my ode, my tribute.
Stuff.
Thank you.
My God.
Yeah, the kazoo. I mean, say
Encore.
So
One more
kazoo.
song. Absolutely outstanding, mate.
Oh,
Yes.
God.
I've been talking about the kazoo for
Wow.
like a week. I'm glad you actually did it. I'm like, I was like, oh my God, he got the kazoo.
I'm crying for two reasons now. Crying for Concord being shut down and crying because that song was beautiful.
So
It's beautiful.
moving.
It was
I mean,
beautiful. It's
I
moved
don't
me.
really know where we go from there. I think we kind of peaked. I don't know. The conversation just feels
98.
redundant now.
That may be it. That may be it. Well, moving on from that ode to Concord, that heartfelt ode that I wrote earlier today, and I just want to now move it on to a more serious discussion about why this fucking shit happened, right? So, first of all, I want to just give a massive shout out here to Lurian. I put out a post basically just bragging about my KD, right? And Lurian's come in with more facts than I've ever seen, and he has really helped me to be able to cut through all the bullshit online and just summarize it in a number of tweets that he's fucking nailed. So I want to just first off say, Lurian, you're the absolute GOAT. Thank you for coming through with this, because it really has helped shape how this entire section is going to go. So I think first off, guys, let's start off with some actual critiques that this game has. And we do see a lot of it online, and some of it you got to take with a pinch of salt. But as we often say on the show, with this smoke, there's fire, right? Now, character designs are an area that I can see there is an issue here in Concord. I think there is. I think that you can tell there's something here that they just feel bland. And I quite like them. Like, I like some of the ones that are out there, like One-Off. I really like his character design. I think he's great. But outside of him, everyone else kind of feels as if they were made in some kind of like factory, like a default character creator selection in terms of like, let's appeal to everyone, let's do that. Now, Lurian's put a great little tweet up here, right? And this is from one of the devs on Twitter. This Twitter thread, I'm going to read this thing out here first off. So somebody tweeted saying, kind of want to try to redesign one of the Concord characters, not to fix art or any pretentious bullshit, just an experience to see if I can find where it went wrong in the designs. Also, it sounds like a fun thing to draw. I love doing this kind of stuff. And one of the character designers came back and said, I was going to DM you after seeing this, but this site makes you pay to do that. So at the risk of getting dogpiled, I'm just going to say this here. A lot affected the art side of Concord, including design by committee, failure of some leadership to listen to the art team, etc. The character concept art team, including myself, is going through an extremely difficult time emotionally, and some on the team no longer want to work in games, design characters, or even do art anymore after this. Because of this, posts like yours, though understandable, are unfortunately ill-timed. None of us know which way the wind will blow with the studio. We're worried, sick and terrified of the future. Not only that, but we have been shouldering the brunt of the emotional labour as executives and directors dodge most of the blame. Behind the scenes of all this talk about Concord and character designs, people's livelihoods are at risk, and there are very real financial consequences that might hurt us even more. Now, I think what has been said there, and I'm not going to read the Twitter name out because I don't want to get anyone in trouble or anything. I think that rings totally true to me, that it feels like they were made in a committee. And it feels like as if this is one of those things where somebody may have come at this with some really unique kind of off-the-wall alien designs that are like pretty nuts. And they've been diluted and diluted and diluted to the point where it's a safe for everyone kind of accessible thing. Now, do you guys feel like that? And do you feel that that is one of the reasons why Concord has been affected so badly, because it doesn't have that kind of standout character that some of the other games like Overwatch or whatever has? Lewis, I'll start with yourself.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up pretty well. That I do think it's by committee. It does feel that way. Also, I feel like I feel wrongly so, but it feels like the people who are very anti-woke are anti this game. They feel like this is pushing like the woke liberal agenda, which I don't think it does, honestly. But there are people who really don't like this game because because it has pronouns and stuff in it and stuff like that. I'm like, they're not even like that big a part of the game. They're just in the corner. I think they are a bit bland. I think that might be the thing that's worse about it. They do kind of almost look like knockoff versions of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I love playing a Star Child, but his name is Star Child. We got he's called like you got the Guardians of the Galaxy. You got the main character called Star Lord, and this guy looks like Drax. Like, he's literally they do feel like knockoff Guardians. Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, I would have loved to have seen the original designs. I would have been really curious. And there's also a thing that Spencer mentioned quite a lot is that people love the lewd side of like Overwatch and all that. That's like that is a big popular part of it. Is that people like ooh, this character's really sexy. Ooh, like cosplaying as that character, or like looking at Rule 34 of certain characters and all that, makes that game really popular. And I don't, which is probably a good thing that it's not overly sexualized, but the fact that they're not maybe doesn't appeal to some like gamers. I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to be the one to bring it up, but there's definitely some porn out there for Concord. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Terrifying stuff, but it does exist. So I don't think that puts off the porn industry if the characters aren't popular.
They adapt.
They'll
don't
slap a dick on most things.
They adapt. They adapt.
Literally.
And actually, funnily enough, we were in after you went off yesterday. Spencer was on. Me, Spencer, and Lewis we played until 3 a.m. last night, bro. It was
Christ.
ridiculous. That's why I'm so tired today. I was like, I wonder if there is porn for Concord. So I went on Rule 34, typed it in, and it is crazy. There's only one page, so hardly any. If you go on there and type in fucking Overwatch, you get there's more things that come up on that than like 9/11. It's insane. There's so much fucking porn on there. It's absolutely nuts. Rule 34? No, not 9/11 Rule 34.
Whoa,
But what I mean is, like, going on Google and typing in 9/11, you'll get a load of hits for 9/11, right? I don't mean that in the way that to build into a hit, right? I'm not going there for our American audience. I'm not taking that bag of potatoes, right? What I'm saying is there's a lot of Google searches for a popular... fuck it, I'm digging a hole. Right, I'm going to move on. There's hardly any porn for Concord there, but as you quite rightly said, it does exist, Phil. And yes, it's horrific. It's not well done. I think it's the thing. We got the people that aren't the best at making art doing that. If I could have a sexy picture of Amari, I mean, I'm up for looking. But unfortunately, it looks like it was drawn by a kid. So
Oof.
it'd be a hard wank, is what I'm saying.
Unfortunately, the characters weren't with us that long, so I don't think the porn artists had that long to sort of create their art when it came to slapping a dick on Amari, etc., etc. But yeah, it's out there, guys. So make sure to check that one out. But just to go back to your initial question before we've detoured into the world of porn, one of my first comments about the characters, and I think I made this after watching one of Jeff Keighley's showcases, and Concord was sort of demoed. At least we saw some of the intro, and they showed off a few of the characters. I came away from that, and I put out on Twitter, now X, if you want to scroll back on my profile, it's at Philip Hoy. I think I mentioned that, did any of the characters feel overly memorable? And from that tweet, I was met with a couple of different responses. One from Maloon. And straight away, he was a big one-off fan from the offset. And I think from that point on, I thought, okay, well, there's something there that's grabbed a few people. But unfortunately, Concord doesn't have those stereotypical character archetypes that you see with most games. There isn't much there that resonates, I think, with the sort of larger audience, right? They tried to pick out some niche bits and pieces and tried something which unfortunately didn't hit on all the levels they thought it was going to hit. And for me, like, I fell in love with the characters as soon as I started to play the game because the game's good. But if you don't have that initial character that sort of resonates with you, I think it's hard to invest that time into that character and want to play them. I think if you just turned off the visuals and just had the kind of stick models as such, right? And weren't blinded by the fact that, you had this kind of androgynous fat man with a backpack and actually played Dawn, you'd find out that these characters are ridiculously deep and multi-layered, and there's a lot of fun to be had. But I think if you can't get over that image, it really sticks with you. And just to pick up on something that Lewis touched on, I don't want to go too far into the whole woke thing, but I think when we look at Europe and when we look at the world, the whole wokeness is less accepted across the world, right? We live in the UK, and a lot of people do have those reactions to people, but they're very accepting of all the different, types of people out there. You can be this way and that in the UK, and we accept everything, and we're very proud of that. But you go a short distance into Europe, and it's a very negative outlook on that lifestyle, and I think that definitely affected it. I've had chats in Discord with people, and I don't want to shout them out, but I believe this person's from Romania, and they have a very different kind of outlook on people of that nature. And unfortunately, I think that is a blocker for a lot of people. So going down that route has definitely affected it for me. And unfortunately, it's just been detrimental, because if you can't get past that idea that clouds your vision, you'll never play the game.
Well said. Yeah, I completely agree with both of you. I think it is one of those things where there's odd glimmers of something in the character design, the odd moments, but generally they're pretty, like, you have to just not care. And for me, gameplay is always king, right? I could look at my character model and it could be the ugliest fucking thing in the world. I don't really care. If the game plays well, that's enough to get me in the door, right? That's all it was. The thing for me, I was impressed by the visuals in terms of the graphical fidelity when we first saw it. I think it was you and me, Lewis, who reacted to this. Yeah. And I really enjoyed the graph. I thought it looked amazing. But my first question wasn't, oh my God, these characters look weird or they don't look that unique. It's, I wonder if this plays slow, because it looks like it's a slower game. And that was my first critique, right? I was thinking, how is this going to play? Because that is what you're doing, right? But I get it. I do understand how people could have a visual reaction and think, there's nothing about this that appeals to me. And I can get it. I don't feel like that for myself, because gameplay's king, but I can understand that viewpoint. And it doesn't mean you have to have someone that's overly sexualized and there's tits everywhere and arse, but you could have something that's unique. And I think that's where this game lost a few people, in that it did look vanilla. It just looked like it had no kind of character. And the character itself is actually in the game and what it brings, right? And like the lore and everything else is so deep on this game, but you've got to be in the door to be able to see that. And you're not going to go through that door if it's not going to appeal to you. So I think that's a valid piece of criticism there. The next one, I think this is something that I definitely feel is a genuine critique of the game, and one of the things that has, in part, resulted in it closing down. I think this is something that is a genuine issue with the game, is the game modes. Now, I think we got a few different game modes at launch. You got Kill Confirmed and Normal Team Deathmatch bundled into one. Then you've got like your kind of point capture and your capture the flag bundled into another. And your third one then is like another kind of mode, which nobody played because everyone's just jumping off the map. And that's really it. You're missing a lot of the other game modes that I think could have added some real value in this. And for me personally, I find the games just went too quick. The score count was too low, that you don't have swings and swings. Like, you have someone will start well and a team can swing and take over, but you don't often see it being like bang, 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 which it could have been if it was a larger net, I feel. And for me, I think that there wasn't enough variety here at launch, and I feel like with the game modes being kind of generic, really, for stuff that's already done in all the other games, there wasn't anything here that was like, this is a Concord thing. Whereas, you know, you could play, for Team Deathmatch and Kill Confirmed, you can play COD, you can play kind of any other shooter. For the other game modes that are there, they're just traditional kind of multiplayer modes. There wasn't anything here that screamed originality, and I feel like that was something that let this game down. Am I unique in that assessment, or are you guys feeling the same? Lewis, I'll come across to you again.
I quite like I disagree with the pacing of that. I quite like that it was only 30 kills, and it was quite, each match was quite snappy. Like, by the time you're like getting kind of bored, or like you feel like you're getting dominated or whatever, or you feel like you're getting like too good and you're burying someone, it's like the game's over. It's like, oh great, cool, next game. Like, I quite like the rhythm of it. I thought the games were nice and quick and snappy. I quite liked that myself. But then I do agree with you on the game modes. Like, so there's a game mode in Concord where if you win a match, you can't use that character anymore. Is that in other games? Because I've never played a game mode like that before. I'm sure it's not new. I'm sure it's been ripped off from something.
I don't know. See, the problem is that with hero shooters and stuff, I'm not really that knowledgeable. So, like, Overwatch, I've never really played. Those kind of games just never really tickled my fancy. I don't know what it was about Concord that made me just get in the door. I think it was just the beta. Just the beta was just class. I loved it. And I think that's probably why. Maybe if I played Overwatch beta, maybe I would love that too. But yeah, I don't know. I can't confirm.
Imagine if they didn't have the beta. Like, how many... Like, because literally the beta sold us on it. Could you imagine how many people would have bought the game if they didn't have the beta? Bloody hell. Like, it would have been even less.
Diabolical. Phil, you've played a bit of Overwatch in your time. Do you recognise it, any of the game modes from that?
Well, I wasn't a huge Overwatch. I dipped in from time to time, but I was never hardcore in that sense. But what I don't get with Concord and what they presented to us early doors was, why not just give us a few more options, okay? If we're only going to be able to play the certain game modes that they've selected, just give a couple options, even just like a little dial where we could set it to longer games. Right? There was nothing overly unique, I think, within those modes that stood out to me as if that was the thing to play. That is the Concord setup to play, right? Why not add a single player or something extra to the game that you could play maybe when you weren't playing the sort of online kind of matches? The storytelling was super in depth, the videos, the galactic map. There were so many layers to all that other stuff, but it could have been just something else to kind of keep you locked into the game. And for me, it was just missing kind of the quality of life things. Okay, so the map voting, for example, replays, even as simple as just rematching a team. Now, can you imagine when we had that really sick match where we turned it around and we were playing one of the devs? If we could run that back over and over, that would have been sick, and that would have just kept you invested in it. There were so many matches where I thought, I'd love to play it again, especially when we got absolutely wiped. I thought, well, now I know what characters I need to pick to be able to beat this team. Now I know what combo that's gonna, surpass the enemy that's just obliterated us. Why not have those options within it? I can't imagine, I'm not a game dev, but those types of things, I could imagine they would have came in time when it came to Concord, because it's a live service game, right? And they promised a long, long roadmap of all these different editions. And I could imagine this would get sprinkled in, but not having those things that, you would automatically assume you would get in games. It just felt a bit, not cheap. Cheap's the wrong word, but it didn't feel like a full product.
I get what you mean. For me, the big one that stands out is like a moment of the match kind of thing.
Yes, those type of things.
In COD, they're great. They're so hype, and on here to be able to see it and to see and it might not even be a kill cam. It might just be a really fucking sick play that somebody set up, and they might not have even finished it, but they managed to create an opportunity for someone to have and it shows the last 30 seconds or minute, and you could watch it if you want to, or you could dip. Those kind of things would be class. And disbanding lobbies is an issue which COD is really fucking guilty for at the moment. And they've been doing it for a while now, since Modern Warfare 2018 or 19, whatever it was. And it sucks because you want to have old school COD, right? If you take it old school COD, I promise this will make sense. Old school COD had the lobby would be static. And so if you wanted to go matchmake, you'd have to exit out that lobby and go back into matchmaking. And it meant that you could form these rivalries with people. And you could be in that same lobby potentially all night. And you could be like, this fucking guy, this guy's pissing me off. And then you'd be on the Xbox voice chat or PlayStation voice chat, and you'd be like, oh, your fucking mother, blah, 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 blah. Speaking shit in between games. Oh, fucking do you now? But then you'd create these little friendships and these little rivalries that would make the game so much more meta. And it's why people look back on things like Halo lobbies from Halo 2 and 3 or COD and all these things so favorably, because you'd get these little meta stories developing within it. As soon as you have a disbanding lobby, it immediately puts that's gone. That's totally gone. There's no way for that to happen. And it's a fucking shame. It's a proper own goal, I feel. If they just kept you in there, like you said, Phil, we could have had some fucking insanely good games. We would have found teams and just never left. Because you're we've lost every single time. This is our one. And you know how competitive me and Spence are? We'd be we're not fucking losing. We're not leaving. No one logs off until we fucking beat them. And then it would be you beat them and they all leave. And you'd be oh, pussies. Like that kind of thing. You wouldn't get any of that. You kind of lose that stuff. And you just hope that they come back round in matchmaking queue.
You're just so disconnected. That's the problem from your opposition. You never, as you're saying, you never built up that rivalry, did you? So you would never have that feeling of conquering something that you couldn't maybe beat, because as soon as you lost to them, you've lost them.
As Dor says, me and my crew. And you feel why can't we be taking it to their crew? It's about the
Exactly.
bounties, about the crew versus crew, right? And you don't get to build that because you just leave them for another crew. And
Like, there's no clans, is there? You know,
No.
back in the day when I first got into video gaming, I was massively into Counter-Strike, and these were the days where, you know, I could play a first-person shooter a bit more competently than I can these days. And I really enjoyed the whole building of a clan and building up that rivalry and logging on at 8 o'clock, getting on TeamSpeak, make sure you book a server. Right, this was back in the day where Steam was green, right, and it was very difficult to set that up. You needed multiple websites to be able to like organize a match. Now we come to expect those things to just be baked into our video games now, and none of it was there with Concord. It's just unfortunate.
I mean, surely that would all be stuff they would have added eventually. It's just a shame that it kind of didn't even get a chance to really evolve or grow. Like, as you said, there was a roadmap, but we didn't even get past 2 weeks. It's insane that they didn't even give it that much of a chance.
But then you think about it on the other side, right? And maybe this is the danger of live service games, right? And we always say that you got to put your best foot forward with a game. And some of these things, granted clans, things like that, that can come at a later time. But having something as simple as a disbanding lobby and a like replay of the fucking match, like a highlight, I don't think that's a huge thing to ask for, right? Like, it's not huge, and they would have made the beta that much more enjoyable for people, I think, and would just made that we don't get disbanded lobbies happens all the time now, and to not have one is a proper rarity, and it's nice. It's like the same as having when you don't have SBMM in your game. It's something to shout about because people enjoy not having those things, right? They like the old school kind of nature for it, and they're things that you'd hope would come. But then I don't think it's a good enough excuse sometimes to be like, well, they would have improved it, because why not do those simple things right at the gate, you know? And I think that people are right in that critique of the game modes. I think that's a valid critique. And I think that is definitely one of the weaknesses of the game. But this is one that I think is going to be a little bit divisive, especially amongst us. Pricing structure. This was the other thing that was widely shouted about on the internet, was the fact that it was a paid game and it wasn't free to play. Do you feel, for yourself personally, that is a factor in this? And would you prefer it to have been free to play from the rip, or are you happy to have paid the money?
Yeah, I can discuss this earlier as well. Yeah, I hate free to play games. I was more than happy to pay the money just to play it. Like, I don't like the idea of getting a game and then being nickel and dimed constantly. Like, ooh, buy this skin, buy this battle pass, and that's what annoys me about Call of Duty. I pay $70 or £70 for it, and then you get all that on top of it. I like the fact that Concord was a full game. I know we were talking about how it was missing features, but a full game when it came to like unlocking characters and skins and stuff. You didn't have to pay extra for them. I really enjoyed that, but it does seem like the mass majority of the population. I feel like it sounds like I'm the one in the minority here. I think I'm the only one who's actually willing to do this, or like one of the few, because it does seem like the mass majority are like, nah, we'll have it for free, and we'll take all the extra shit that's just gonna be shoved down our throats. Like, I would have preferred just to not have to pay for have all the microtransaction bullshit, but I think most people are used to that now with games like Fortnite and Apex and other free-to-play games like that. I think that is the common ground, unfortunately.
Lewis, I completely agree with you. I think that I was happy to pay the money for it. And it was like a breath of fresh air to me to not have all the microtransactions and the fucking different currencies and all this bollocks. To not have any of that and for it to just be a gameplay experience. It was such a breath of fresh air. And I'm so used to seeing at the end of a game a battle pass come up, and you got your 2 tiers, you got your premium tier and your default tier. Default tier is all bollocks. Premium tier is class. And you think, oh well, I don't want to pay an extra 10 quid now just so I can lock this sparkly skin. Why can't they just include that, you know? And to have that included in, and just to have the base game there was great. Now, I think there was an issue with skins and stuff, and I'm sure we'll go on to that when we talk about the future of the game and how it can come back. But I totally agree with you. I think you're bang on. I think we are in the minority. And I don't regret them doing this. I think it was just a case that maybe the beta and the character designs were a thing that stopped it from being able to find a core audience. I don't think it was necessarily the pricing point, but I think that it's more so the systemic issues of the kind of first foot forward when it comes to the character design, I think. And the fact that the gameplay felt very generic to start with. And it's only when you play it for a number of hours that you realize how deep it is. But you won't necessarily get that experience from a beta if you check in for an hour or two, because it would feel like any other game you play, but just, you're playing as Door, rather than Sexy Angel Bird. So that's kind of where it goes from there. But what about yourself, Mr. Hoy?
Well, Davey, I'm at an age where if I buy a game, I want the game, right? I'm so used to that, right? I've grown up buying games. I have shelves adorned with hundreds of games. Physically, those games. I very much don't enjoy buying digital games. I don't buy a lot of DLC. And I only really buy DLC when it's the real standout stuff. But with Concord, obviously I was happy to pay. I actually bought this one digitally because I knew it was going to be a game after the beta that I would end up playing a lot. And I knew it would be in and out of my PlayStation. So those types of games, it's obvious to buy it digitally. All right. But it was quite different to the current standard, right? Most shooters these days, outside COD, they are your free-to-play model. They are your nickel and dime, jump in, enjoy the game, and, pay £10 every time you want a new sparkly skin. But Concord were trying something different, and I really appreciate that. It was a much more, I suppose, old-school way of thinking. As I said, where you buy the game and you get the game. It was like my sort of youth of video gaming, really, more than anything. And I really liked that, and I really appreciate it. And it was one of the things actually that attracted me to playing Concord. I really liked that we were going to get a lot of stuff for what actually seemed like quite little money.
Exactly. And I think there's definitely issues with some of the stuff that was there, and the progression I felt was a little bit slow. But in terms of having a game be a game and it to work and not to be full of bugs, I didn't encounter anything on the full. I haven't encountered anything on my time since the game launch. I had a couple of issues in the beta, which we discussed about, but the main game was fucking flawless. I didn't have a single issue when it came to a bug, nothing like that. And you just don't get that. Like in modern gaming, it's wild. Did you? What did you encounter?
Well, I couldn't log in I had a couple of issues of trying to log into the game where I was just stuck in the loading screen for about 10, 15 minutes, like trying to log in. I don't know if you guys remember.
Your internet was on the fuck though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
your internet was on the fuck, to be fair. Lately, hadn't it?
But that was the annoying thing. And then also one day when I was playing on my own, the game crashed twice on me when I was in the middle of a game. It just it just froze.
Did it?
And then it said like report error, but it might have just been because
Oh wow!
Oh, that's a genuine bug. That's a bug.
Yeah.
I would say the first one might be down to your internet because you've had the same problems tonight while we've been recording this.
That's true.
So I wouldn't put that one down to Concord. But the second one, if you're sending in those reports to Sony, then you can class that one. We might even play the theme tune at some stage for the Bug Hunter because you've very much taken over Spencer's position.
But apart from that, it's been a pretty smooth experience, to be fair. I just thought I'd mention that I have had a couple. But then there's a lot of games I've played that I've had a lot worse experiences. So, it's not the end of the world. They weren't game breaking. Well, they were.
No, definitely
not.
At the end of the day, you weren't paying £70 for this game. It was a full, legitimate, solid game for what it was. And there was lots of room to grow. But at the end of the day, we weren't shelling out a lot for this game. And especially if you're on the PS Stars and the PS Points, like I was, got £10 cheaper. So it seemed quite nice, actually.
25 quid's not bad, is it?
That's 25 quid was lovely. Good for that game.
We could be on the wrong side of this, but I really don't feel like the pricing structure was the Achilles heel to this. I think it was everything before that. I think if they had got the game modes right for the beta and had a bit more diversity and something that really spoke, this is a Concord thing. You think of COD, right? Competitive CODs, search and destroy. Normal COD, TDM, right? That's what you think of that for that game. there wasn't something here that you think, that's it. That's the Concord spice. That's the Concord magic in here. There wasn't that, and if the character designs alongside that don't appeal, the two combined is going to push a lot of people away. And I think that is more so the Achilles rather than the price. But we all bought it. So maybe we are just in the minority.
I think the main selling point was the equipment carried over between like deaths. So if you put a wall up with Duchess, that wall would stay there the whole game. Or if you put cameras down and stuff like that, or shields or portal, that was their main selling point. But obviously, it didn't really sell. Like no, it didn't really get across. People didn't really get it until I only really got it once I started playing it. To be honest.
And I suppose the other thing that they do is the crew builder, right? And that was supposed to be their thing, but I don't think that's a good enough. It's a not good enough feature. It's nice to be able to augment people, but I never really did care too much.
And it wasn't explained very well, I don't think. You know, like going back to my quality of life, which I touched on earlier, like I make websites, right? And when I want someone to do something, I'll add a tooltip. I'll put a little marker saying, this is where something is, this is important, this is something you should do. And when that system was introduced, it took me a long, long time to fully and I don't think I fully understand the system, but it was explained to me a few times. And ultimately, it wasn't a big enough draw, or we wouldn't play in it at the level which we needed it. And I think if we had more time, I think we would have made more use of it. I think it's quite it's a system that you need to fully understand the game to actually find the benefit within it.
I find it's just a bit of a flaw where you've got to send out a character that you potentially might not even want to play to be able to benefit the character that you do want to play. I just feel it's like, why? I want Amari to be faster, but then that means I have to play Rocker or Baz first to be able to then get that ability for the character I actually want to play. And it's like, I just don't think it's a well-designed system. I think it's fine and it's cool, and it is cool to see people where they've had a lot of deaths and their characters like fucking insanely buffed then because they've done all these different varieties, but it's not a draw. No one's going to be like, oh, I want to play Concord because I want to play 3 different characters to make my character good.
No.
Like, it's not a good enough thing. And
just on that point, David, before you do move on, I'm sorry.
No, carry on.
Because we are labouring this point slightly. But everyone is so loyal when you play video games. Everyone has their favourite character in every single game that they play. If there's options, you will always find that affinity to whatever character, whatever gels with you, whatever you get the highest score on, right? And you always want to play that character. To be forced to change away from that character, it doesn't feel good, man. It doesn't feel good. I want to be buffed on the character I like, not on the character I don't like, as you're saying. It just doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
It's not a great system.
Also, like if you start off with one character you don't like, there's no guarantee you're going to get the character you do like once you die, because someone could have already took that character. So it's like you're risking. It's like, oh, I want to play this character, but I want to buff her first, and then you buff her, and then that character's taken the next time around. It's like, well, I fucked it there, didn't I? Like, you know, you can't guarantee to get the characters you want because they're limited to one per person.
And this I suppose is a wider systemic issue with Concord, is that their way to get around this, because the logical step would be, you think, right, well, why can't we have like a class builder? So like COD, you know, like where you pick your loadout, right? And so one person's weapon would be totally different from another's. So why couldn't I say, right, you've got 3 perks or whatever. Amari, then I might have it so she's got faster reloads. I might have it so she's got faster sprint speed, and I might have it that she's got harder hitting melee. And
she's
then
already busted, dude. You don't need any of that.
I know.
If you had that, Jesus Christ, the game is broke.
But yeah, you get what I mean. Like,
I do get what you mean.
To get those things, I would have to. Well, obviously the melee isn't one, but to get like the faster reloads, I'd have to play as Deviers, and to get the faster movement speed, I have to play as Baz or Rocker, right? And so I can build that into my Amari to make my ultimate Amari, but it takes like 3 characters before I even get there, if I get there, because the scoreboard isn't high enough. So by the time I get there, I've got maybe 3 or so kills left with my character, and it's over, unless I'm totally shit and I'm just dying like straight off the rip. I think they could have had like a picking your character select thing like COD, where you can really do these things and there's negatives to them or whatever, and you kind of do that. But because they had variants, and that was their kind of way to give you a different version of your character, was the variant that would come out every single week. That's fucked. I think that fucked it. I think that and the crew builder together are just a mistake. I think they tried to make that unique, whereas they probably should have focused on something else and taken what fucking COD and everyone else does well and make it so you can customize your guy from the rip. And that would have been much better, in my opinion.
Okay, you're playing a first-person shooter. We look at the scoreboard at the end, and I'm 0 for 10. Have I done bad? Yes. But in Concord, I've switched to a bunch of characters. If we're playing COD, and I'm 10-0, and I haven't died once, you're like, you've played a perfect game. But Concord is encouraging you to die. It doesn't make sense for a first-person shooter to want you to die. You want to stay alive. You don't want to die. You want to be the best at playing that character. I don't want to go through 3 or 4 deaths just so my Dawn character is so overpowered that I literally can't die. And to be fair, she couldn't anyway. But it just doesn't make sense. Why would I want to die in a first person?
Yeah. I think it's something we can look past because of how much we enjoy the game, right? Like
Indeed.
I can look past it because I was quite happy staying with base Omari from the rip. Yeah. And that would be it. And I'll be slow, I'll be lumbering around, but I'll still end with 60-0. And it's fine. Like I can make it work. But would I have liked to be able to have that? When she's got fast movement speed, she feels lush. She feels so nice. But I don't want to have to start with Rocker every time. I don't want to have to start with these other characters. I want to play Amari. Like, that's all I want to do. And I think that's something where it's a brave decision, but I think it's fucked. And I don't think it's right. And we've looked past it because the game's just so much fucking fun. But I feel it is a fatal flaw with the game design of this game. And
Agree.
Something that I feel, especially when people didn't understand it in the beta, like you said, Phil, because I don't think it was very well explained, it probably put people off. And I think there is something to that. Lewis, I know you've been desperate to say something here.
All I was going to say as well is with the variant, it's not very easy to access the variants either. You had to put them into your crew and add them to your crew that way, and then change your crew and then put it into the game. So I don't understand why you couldn't just have a toggle in-game to swap between different variants of the same character. I don't understand that. Like I was saying before, like games like Super Smash Brothers, you just push X or Y and you change colour of the costume. Why couldn't you just have that for your variants? Like, push this button to change it from variant 1 to variant 2. Instead, you had to build a whole new squad just to put your new variants in, which was just very convoluted and weird to me. That was another thing that was just bugs me about the variant system.
It's this whole design philosophy of thinking that you're going to create this perfect crew and that you're going to really love to build this crew out to be, you know, like really unique and your crew people. But I'm one of these people, like when I play a fighting game, it's very similar. I find 1 or 2 characters and I don't give a fuck about the rest. And that's, I imagine, I can't see a universe where that isn't the norm, right?
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
I'd never see people where they're like good with everyone and they want to play everyone. People were playing everyone because they wanted the trophies, right? Like that was the only reason we were all moving around different mains and trying different people is for the trophies. Otherwise, I think there was like, I think Balloon said it himself, and I know Spence said it a couple of times, and I think you might have even said it as well, Lewis, actually, so it might have been 3 people say it. Be like, I can't wait to get these trophies done so I can just play. Spence was like, I can't wait to get these done so I can just play at sea all the time. And it's like, obviously the crew build doesn't mean fuck. Like, it doesn't matter because they just want to play their character. And we all felt like that. We were all trying different characters out because of the trophies, not because we felt, our crew's our crew. They're our boys. We're going to stick with them. No one gives a fuck. Like, really, no one cares.
But in the beta, I just stuck to Star Child and I really enjoyed using the Star Child. But in the actual full game, me playing those characters and getting them all to level 10 to get the trophies, I did start to learn new characters, and I liked Teo, I liked Hamar. There was a couple of characters I picked up because I was forced to try new characters. So that might be like the positive spin on it, but I do agree with you for the most part. Once you got your characters down, you stick with them most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think I think we've made a good enough rationale for why it happened. I think we've also added some constructive criticism here. Remember, listeners, we fucking love this game. Like, we love it.
Yeah.
But even I can see the flaws in there and the kind of the things that would have stopped it. But I think the next thing we'll move on to is just a little myth dispel, right? I've got one big myth I want to kind of break on this, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. The myth itself that I've been hearing loads is that this game's been in development for 8 years, right? 8 years of dev time spent. If I've seen that once, I've seen that 1,000 times. Well, there's some tweets here that Lurian thankfully put together, and the first is from a guy, Hamrick, right? Josh Hamrick over on Twitter, so make sure to go and give him a like and a follow. And he said, I started a Firewalk in the spring of 2019. We were less than a dozen devs working shoulder to shoulder in a friend's attic. So 2019 to now certainly isn't 8 years. And the next thing we know is that, just to get some clarity out of this, from Jim FW over on Discord, just to get some clarity out here, 8 years ago, Concord was a wouldn't it be cool if, with napkin sketches and stuff. Firewalk has only existed for 6 years, and most of the content is actually in the game was built over the last 4 years or so. And I think this goes alongside the thing that people are saying this is a huge monetary loss for Sony in terms of the cost of development, where this has been 8 years in and there's been 1,000 developers. Talking, if we take what Hamrick has said here as fact, that it grew up to 100, right? What Hamrick and Jim are saying here, that it grew up to like 100 odd devs. I don't think it's that bad in terms of like being, you know, like some people were saying around, like going around chucking out like 80 odd million and shit like that. There's no way it got there. I'm not saying it wasn't expensive, because the game looks beautiful, right? And they've spent a lot of money when you look at everything else. But
yeah,
I think let's just get that one out of the way straight away. That 8 years dev time is just a load of absolute bullshit. Your thoughts, guys? Lewis, come to you.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting because you brought this up in the notes, and I was like, wait, it wasn't 8 years? Because I've heard this rumor as well, and I thought it was legit. So you've literally debunked it for me as well. I didn't realize that this was all bollocks. I thought the 8 year thing was true. It's really interesting. Yeah, like as you said, development scales up. So obviously, it's not, even if it was 8 years, it's not 8 years of hundreds of people working like round the clock, 7 days a week, 24 hours working on this game. As you said, it sounded like it was a small team, and it's grown over the years. Like, Sony saw something in this small team and bought them, and then they grew, right? I mean, that's as far as I was aware. I thought the 8 year thing was true, so I'm glad you debunked it, because as I said, I just heard that and just assumed it was right. So, yeah, you've debunked it for me. So there you go.
You can thank Lurian for that little nugget, because I would have said 100% that 8 year thing, I'd heard that from so many sources that I would have taken that as fact. So I'm glad that Lurian was able to uncover those little tidbits from the developments themselves. Phil, over to you. What do you think about all this?
I love it that we're dispelling myths. I'm a big fan of Mythbusters. Now, if we had the theme tune and we could play it without getting YMCA'd over on YouTube, I'm sure we'd be playing it at the moment. We've got a lot of theme tunes going on at the moment, haven't we? But man, like, I'd want to work at Firewalk. If they were getting 80 million, did you say, split between a handful of devs? Get me in, sign me right up. That sounds brilliant. They must have been loving life. They must have been popping bottles all day long on that money. Nah, mate. This just sounds like a series of Chinese whispers. One person said to another, and it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, Twitter has just added into this rumor just to make it even worse that this game has only lasted a couple of weeks. Now, they probably just take the end figure and they've just kind of run with it, but they've added a couple of extra O's, and that's how we've ended up in this spot. But I just think it's just another dig, you know? Like, if anyone actually spent the time, and obviously we have a dedicated fan within the MPS We Trust family that has gone out within Lurian and fact checked what's been said. And he does this a lot, and he's very, very good at it. So I would encourage everyone to go out and follow Lurian over on Twitter. We won't put his Twitter in the description because we always say we will and we never end up doing it. But if you can find him over on Twitter, make sure to follow him because he does a lot of this and he really cuts through the smoke when it comes to these facts. But yes, that 8 years, just ludicrous at the end of the day. Really, really is.
That's the main kind of thing I wanted to break here. But I also wanted to talk through this little nugget that Lurian's picked out. And he said, Firewalk is packed with tenacious fighters, multiple acquisitions, an engine upgrade from UE4 to 5, global pandemic, project delays. The fact we shipped at all is legendary. None of us know what's next, but I do know this team is capable of wild energy when faced with a challenge. And I gotta say, like, it's wild, to think of. And can you imagine that 4 years going through that,
Yeah.
Like, this insane amount of stuff, and especially as, like, the project probably evolved, and it went through so much, like, kind of committee stuff as well, surely. I wonder what the original vision was, Like, I wish I could be, like, a fly on the wall. Yeah, and just know what they originally had in store and what it turned out to be. I'd love to do that. Like you were saying about the character designs and stuff, Lewis. Love to know. Be so interesting. A potential doco in the future, maybe, from somebody, I'm sure. Now, the next thing I want to talk on, we kind of went through it when we were talking about like Chinese whispers and stuff, is the toxicity of social media and the impact that had. Do you feel, obviously, the social media outrage has been insane, and we've noticed it ourselves. We put out a couple of shorts on YouTube a while ago when we played the beta, saying how much we enjoyed it, and the amount of vitriol that got thrown our way was insane. It was absolutely insane. The only time we get anything close is whenever we do like a Xbox Reacts, and we get so much shit for that, even though we spend the entire thing saying, "Oh my god, that was the best showcase we've ever seen," right? The people like latch on.
Not even listening to us.
No, they literally latch on to the one thing of hate where I'm saying about like why are people playing Flight Sim, where I'm taking the piss, obviously. And they latch onto it and they're like, "Oh, you're such a fucking dickhead. Oh, I wish I could fly a jumbo jet." Fuck off, right? Do you feel the toxicity that surrounded this game had the impact on it, and that was one of the killing blows for it? Or do you feel like most people, or like us, for example, we can look at that and I don't give a fuck what anybody else is saying. If I've played it and I've enjoyed it, that's enough for me. Do you feel that had the impact on this game and helped promote its decline?
100%. Oh, absolutely. I feel that is that was the biggest problem, is the social media backlash. I already talked about the woke liberal agenda. You got that, like you've got the people online who just don't like that kind of stuff, and as you said, like places around the world that are totally against that stuff. It didn't really bother me, but that is like the thing that people see when they see Concord. Unfortunately, that is like the first thing they see is like, "Oh, it's so woke." Ugh. Like, I don't think it is, but it just gives off that appeal, and then that's what people run with. And as you said, social media is toxic, and then people are like, "No one's playing this game," so then no one plays the game. Like it's like a lot. It's like almost like self-fulfilling prophecy a lot of the time with the online discourse. Like, "Oh, no one's gonna buy this game." It's like, "Oh, I guess I won't buy it then." Before this game even came out, I heard a lot of, "No one's gonna buy it," and then guess what? Nobody bought it. So it's like it feels like, yeah, I feel like the social media was a big detriment to it. I feel like if people just gave it a chance, I feel like more people would like it, and they would have maybe survived longer than 2 weeks if people like. I feel like maybe if they had more betas, they would have been a better, because the beta sold us. If more people tried the beta out, I think it would have been more successful, or maybe like survived at least. Yeah, I think it's a bummer that people kind of saw it as this one thing and just didn't even give it a chance. I think we all gave it a chance and we liked it, so we bought it. And a lot of people didn't even give them that initial chance, which sucks. It's a bummer.
It really is, mate. I completely agree with you. Phil, what about yourself?
100%. And I believe, unfortunately, this game was dead before it started. The The social media backlash was lashing even before we got our hands on the game, even before we got into the beta. You know, it's a bunch of dweebs hiding behind anime girl profiles on Twitter, just raging at things, right? And they see something a little bit different out there, a little bit woke, as Lewis has touched on a few times, and they're just going mad. It's a bunch of old ugly men sat behind anime girl profiles, and that's all you see. No one's ever themselves on Twitter, are they? No one will actually have their face and have this very, stern standpoint about this game. It's all just fucking dickheads behind weird little pictures where they'll never put their name to it. We had one the other day that came onto our YouTube. They was talking about the comments that we had, right? Again, a little dweeb hiding behind an anime girl profile, right? And he said, I quote, "I told you Concord was going to be shit, didn't I? It's not going to sell. Ah ha 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 ha." And it was as simple as that. So I commented back, cracked my knuckles, and I said, "So did the androgynous character within the game make you feel some type of way where it's got you angry about this?" I said, "Maybe you should embrace those feelings and learn to love a little bit, because ultimately you'll probably enjoy a lot more games if you give a lot more games a bit more of time and options." And yeah, I don't think he commented back to that one. So yeah, fuck you, little dweebs.
I totally agree with you, Phil. This is normally my stance in terms of that people online, they live online in their little fucking hole, typing into their fucking keyboard and mouse, Doritos flying everywhere, and sitting there, "Mom, get the door, there's somebody at the door, Mum, I can't leave my fucking computer because I gotta refresh Twitter 24/7. Go outside, you fucking twat. Like, just go outside. Fucking touch a vagina. See the world, man. Like, don't be such... Why? I never understand. Like, unless you're brought up in a culture or your parents really did a fucking number on you, and you have, like, this fucking horrendous worldview where you can't stand minorities, you can't stand they, them pronouns because, oh God, it's so painful. Go out into the real world. Like, every single corporation, especially here in the UK anyway, every single corporation, if you weren't towing this line, and you weren't, it's not a case you have to be, like, fucking bowing down to it. You just have to be tolerant. And it's like as if people can't be tolerant. I can't fathom it, because, like, I don't care about pronouns, right? They mean fuck all to me. People could call me fucking love for all I care, or girl, whatever. I wouldn't give a fuck, because ultimately I don't care. Like, I really don't give a fuck. But people that do, and they either want their pronouns pronounced, I'll respect it, because what damages it to me? It does nothing to my life for me to change how I speak to somebody the way they want to be spoken to. It does nothing to me. Like, I will go into a meeting with whoever I have as a new manager, and I'll be like, look, my communication style is just be direct. I don't like you beating around the bush. I prefer you just tell me how it is. And I got thick skin, I'll be fine, right? Don't worry about it. Don't have to pull your punches. I prefer that way. Other people, I know from experience of managing, where they like it soft and gentle. They like it to be, like, wrapped in cotton wool before you give feedback, and you got to give the good and bad and in equal measure and all that stuff. Everyone's got their own preferences for the way that people talk to them, or the way that people like to be represented, or whatever it is. And I think ultimately, these people who are just permanently online and they get into their little bubbles where it's just them and their little fucking shitty ginger ass fucking Dorito covered mates, and they're all just fucking horrendous together. And they can be online and they can do that because in the real world they can't act that way, and because they don't speak to anyone, because they're permanently online playing their fucking nonce games like that fucking cat dress up game, and they're doing shit like that.
I was just about to say, they're the one playing all the female characters, pretending to be women online. So what's the difference? You should love Concord. You're one of them. You like all this type of stuff because you're doing it online. You like pretending to be a little child online and having a little cartoon as your picture. Dweebs.
Fucking losers, man. Absolute fucking losers. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. But I think before we get on to the listener questions, and we got 2 of them. I think what we'll do is, in terms of the future, right, for this game, obviously it's been taken down right now. We don't know anything further. We don't know what's happening. Just a little bit of speculation. We don't have to spend too long. What do you think is going to happen with this now? What kind of, are they going to change model? Whatever you want to go with it, go for it. Phil, I'm going to come around to you, actually.
Sure. Well, I kind of think that probably the same as the majority of people, this will end up coming back, and I really hope it does, and I hope the core gameplay, which we've fallen in love with, doesn't change dramatically. But I think it'll be the free-to-play model. But I hope they go more down the League of Legends kind of style, because of course some of the devs, I believe, worked on the game, or there's some sort of connection between ex-Riot devs and the Concord setup. But have that kind of, optional extras where you aren't forced into battle passes as such, but you can buy vanity items, and they could make some of the money back from that. And if they are going to spend a lot of time now reassessing some of the character design and really upping the sort of visuals in that respect, there's money to be made, isn't there? Definitely. If that's something that you really hate within the game, let's make those nutters pay to change, Dawn into a sexy Dawn. Let's fuck them. Let's put it on them. Let's turn it around and say, if you want her in a bikini, 20 quid, mate. Let's turn it around. Because none of that matters to me, and I'll just play the game regardless.
I completely agree with you. I think that's exactly what they should do. And I think it should be, you could get around a bit of it by having things like, if you wanted to appeal to the masses who are so anti-woke or whatever, you just have, as soon as the game starts, pronouns on or off. Things like that. And people could customize it to whatever they want. And it means that, and it would be on by default, and then you have to turn it off if you hate them, right? And there's no damage done then, is there? That's not a bad thing, I think. You can just take that or leave that. That's one thing. Secondly, though, I completely agree with you. I think that the future of this game, as you quite rightly said, I think it's going to come back. They've spent way too much now on controllers and with the tie-ins for different things. They need this, or they want this to be a big thing. And I think you might as well listen to the community at this point. And if the overriding voice is saying that they don't like the character designs, go back to fucking basics. You can keep them doing exactly the same shit, but tweak things up a little bit. Make it so they do have a little bit more personality, so they are more unique. You could still have Amari in fucking power armor, but why not have it so that one of the skins, she's got like the helmet fully down, and she's like fucking looking like with cool ass like LED eyes or whatever. You could do whatever you want, right? You could tweak the character designs and still keep them who they are, but make it so they've all got the kind of affinity that One-Off has. Like, One-Off for me is just like perfect.
They got him right, haven't they?
They've nailed him. They absolutely nailed him. And I think everyone else could be tweaked or changed to make them stand out a little bit more. Could it be that fucking your character, Lewis, instead of being like a Drax ripoff, why didn't he have like cool ass fucking spikes coming out of his shoulders or something to make him like look a little bit more fearsome and like a little bit more like dangerous, right? Like, you can tweak them without having to go like full on nuke them and they come back. Now it's, Amari is a 5'2" Korean bird with double G tits, right? Like, you can really just fucking tweak them. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, 20 quid's fine. Yeah.
And this is the thing. And then I think that the one downside this game definitely has at the moment is that the unlocks kind of suck. Like, the skins aren't great. Whereas in there, if I could have like they're very basic. They're just palette swaps. If I could have like a cool ass skins, like something where like Amari's minigun, for example, it's, like, I don't know, maybe it's like black and it spins up and it's purple and shoots purple bullets or whatever it is, like something cool, something that you think, oh, that's a fucking sick ass skin. Like, we saw one guy, I think, in the beta who was like level 99 with Lennox or something. And he had a skin that was just nuts. And we were all like, whoa, that skin's nice. Wonder how you get that. Like something like that. It does work.
They could do what League of Legends do. So they have like themes that go across multiple characters. So they'll have like a jelly theme or a cat theme, right? And all the characters are cat themed. And all that stuff sells like hotcakes. You just lean into anything that's popular and then make a bunch of skins that's very similar and digs upon that idea. And as I said, it just makes a lot of money. So why not go down that route? It's optional. It doesn't give you any competitive advantage. It just makes it more enjoyable for the people that want it.
The obvious option for me is getting Starchild and turning him into Kratos, just having a Kratos outfit for him, or just like basically just use all your
Kratos
PlayStation
skin.
Kratos skin for Starchild. That would sell gangbusters. Probably make more money than the game made this time around, just from that one microtransaction. To be honest, like maybe have who could be Jin from Ghost of Tsushima? I'm trying to think who would be a good fit for that. Like Tayo, maybe? I don't know. But you could do like basically PlayStation IP, like there's so many of them, even though Totoki doesn't believe so. But you could use a lot of your PlayStation IPs and have different like people would buy that shit. Yeah, I think they would anyway.
So you mean you would turn it into PlayStation All Stars, but have
Kinda,
Concord in it?
but just like skins.
Hey,
Not
maybe.
when,
I know
Yeah.
what you mean.
make
Yeah.
Amari into Sackboy.
Like,
That'd be
they-
hilarious.
Oh god, that'd be
Just
terrifying.
a huge sack boy with a minigun.
Yes.
Shredding everyone. That'd be terrifying. That would fucking hell. But no, I get what you mean. Like I always think of Ghost of Tsushima did it really well on its multiplayer in that you unlocked PlayStation themed skins for that. So I had a Kratos skin for Ghost of Tsushima, and it was still in samurai armor, but it had the white and red with the tattoo all down it. And it looked dope and it looked awesome. And there was another one for Bloodborne where he's in the Crow Hunter armor, and you think, this is cool. There's still a samurai, but I know that references that. It's like really obvious. And I think there's easy money to be made there. The downside is, of course, coming to free to play is there's going to be battle pass, it's going to be all this bollocks. But as long as they retain the core gameplay, I don't care what else they do. I really don't. I couldn't give less of a fuck. If the gameplay's the same, and maybe they augment it with some of the criticisms that we've talked through on this with this break, I'm more than happy to see that come back. I'm more than happy. But Lewis, I haven't come to you yet properly. So what are you thinking?
I think it's going to come back as a anime Japanese waifu game. I think it's like everyone's just going to be waifus.
Dear God.
That's it. That's the whole game. And Spencer will buy it up and buy all the microtransactions.
Well, it's his turn,
No,
isn't it, now? Because David,
yeah.
you bought it, so it's Spencer's turn. So
Yes, true. No, but really,
Yeah.
I think it's just what Phil said. Really, I think it's it's going to go free to play. If it comes back at all, which I'm worried it might not, and which would suck because we really enjoyed it. But yeah, if they bring it back, free to play. I'm really surprised they never brought this on PlayStation Plus. I really am. It baffled me that they've pulled it so quickly. Mad.
It's one of those things like you do kind of like what Multiverses did, where you take that break. And I reckon, and I was going to ask you guys this, how long do you think until we see it again? And I'll answer my own question. I think it'd be a year. I think it'd be a year. I think you take it off, you cool it off, like Multiverses has done. And I looked into the numbers for this. Me and Malou were chatting about it when we were playing. And the peak for Multiverses was something like 153,000 players on Steam, right? And they took it off, and when it came back a year later, it hit 116,000. So it didn't lose many, right? Like, a lot of people came back for that to see what it was like and to check it out again.
Mm.
And I think if you leave it a year, or 6 months at least, and you really put that extra little bit in to bring those quality of life things so they're there on the rip, and some extra game modes, and something that really spells Concord out, and you bring it back free to play, that's the best chance it's got. But I'm saying at least 6 months. I'm thinking a year.
I think one thing they need to avoid, and they really need to avoid, is bringing it initially back to PC.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because those numbers killed it. And that's the crowd that were very anti-Concord. I don't feel it was the PlayStation loyalists. I feel it was more kind of the general purpose PC guys that really put the hate down on this, because they've got such a suite of options over there. Of course, they can, why do they care about a PlayStation IP? They just don't as much, right? It's a brand new IP. They had no affinity with the characters. There was lots of, red flags for them. So, of course, they're just going to get on the back and put it down because they can go and play Overwatch. They can go and play a million other hero shooters, which are much more established. So I think if they're bringing it back, just avoid the PC for time. Give it a couple of months, build it up on PlayStation, get all the PlayStation people enjoying it again, and then release it on PC. The same as we do on most of our games, right? Most of our games, it takes about a year, 2 years to then come out on PC. Give it that time. Don't bring it on PC straight away.
I totally agree with you.
I think it's going to be 2025 as well. I think logically you're going to be going up against Call of Duty if you're bringing out if you're bringing out again within the next 2 or 3 months. You're just going to get slaughtered by Call of Duty.
Oh no.
Black Ops 6
it's never coming out that quick.
No, that's what I'm saying. It needs to be after the Black Ops hype has kind of died down a little bit. So I imagine probably about the same time next year, I'd imagine. But also the question I have as well, what's going to happen with Fair Games and Marathon now? Like, are they going to change the style of those games? Are they going to be delayed? Does this be moved, relaunched? Does that push them all back a year? Or are we going to have like 2 of them coming out at once? Like, I don't know.
I think it puts the fear of fucking God into it, mate.
Yeah.
I do. I really do. And I think all the types of issues and criticisms that are coming out with Concord, if there's any of that stuff within those games you mentioned, they're delaying. They're ripping them straight out because they don't want to be tarnished, unfortunately, with that same brush.
I think Marathon has a chance of surviving because it is Bungie and it is a recognizable name. But I kind of agree.
Going off what you guys are on about, I think with Fair Games, it all comes out to what the game is. We don't know yet, right? It all comes down to that and how they present it. I think what's going to happen now is, like you were saying, Phil, it is going to put the fear of fucking God into them.
Yeah.
And I think rightly so.
Mm-hmm.
I think like you have to put your best foot forward. And so far, all they got is a name and that's it, right? Like this time, before that Game Awards or whatever it was, Summer Game Fest, wherever it was first shown, I can't remember, for Concord, and we reacted to it. Before that, we had no idea what Concord was. It was just like ship with little like things like wiggling or whatever. We had no idea, like a burger or whatever. We had none. And so there was this level of interest. Now, after Concord, Fair Games' interest is going to be down here. It's going to be even lower than Concord's was. So you got to fucking come out swinging big dicks immediately. And they got to make sure that whatever they do lands. And now, the good thing about it is that looking at the character designs they had on that initial trailer, they looked pretty generic, but there wasn't anything kind of offensive there. They just need to fucking be super confident and learn from this. And I think you're right. I think that we don't have a date for Fair Games. I don't believe we do. Not a concrete one anyway. And certainly nothing for Marathon. And so you can now just play ignorance is bliss. In terms of anyone asks, yeah, it's still in active development. But they could have been like, right, shift it out 6 months. It needs more work. It needs this. It needs that or whatever. And we wouldn't know because we haven't seen it yet. So I think at this point, they could just be like, this was always the plan. It was always this. And then they go quiet, leave the fucking dust settle, relaunch Concord in a year, and it be fucking something that's just like a No Man's Sky, you know, where it like came back, it's fucking massive after that update. They need something, they need to cool off like No Man's Sky did. They went silent for a year. Granted, the game was still out, but they went silent for a year and then they came back and they're like, we fixed it. And then it fucking banged and it's not stopped since. They've not looked back. Concord needs that, but I think instead of leaving it up where it would just continue to get hated and it would just go quiet and distant, if you leave it and then come back with a big bang, you at least make headlines, right? It's back. Concord's announced date is this. It gets another media presence, which it wouldn't get if it was just left just to silently wither away and die until they fix the issues with it. So, but yeah, we'll wait and see. Hopefully we'll see it sooner rather than later, but at least 6 months, please. So we got 2 questions from the audience to close off here. The first is from Lurian. I think I've kind of answered this for myself already, so apologies, Lurian. First, before we do, let's play the jingle. There once was a show some time ago that asked 4 questions every fortnight or so. It became so rare they weren't prepared to have a versatile rhyme. Oh God, I'm scrambling now to get a word that rhymes, so how can I wrap this up? I'll take this mail and go. Lurian asks, Why don't Sony grow a pair and stick it out? Final Fantasy XIV, No Man's Sky, etc. All broken games. Why pull it? Lesser games like Firewall are still up. Criminal. I completely agree with you, Lurian, that Firewall should not be up. That I should have got refunded for that game. That game's fucking shit. That's the worst purchase I've ever bought. A fucking terrible purchase that was, and I kind of blame you a little bit for that, Lurian. I don't really. I'm only messing. I think I've already answered your question. That I think going out and coming back creates a media splash, and it means that the dust can settle, and hopefully people soften. Lewis, I'm going to come over to you. Why do you think? Why have they pulled it? Why not just leave it up?
The only logic I have with this is that they've pulled it, refunded everyone who's paid money for it. So now the people who paid money for it, they can start going, oh, it's free now, so you gotta pay battle passes and microtransactions. It's like they didn't want to have to deal with a load of people who bought the £40 one getting the free stuff or getting the updates without. I feel like they want to keep it to one pay structure. Does that make any sense? That's my logic, anyway. Is that they didn't want to have to go, oh yeah, you bought the game for £40, so you get this battle pass, these skins, you get all this because you've already paid for it, and then you guys have to pay for the microtransactions, you guys have to pay for the battle pass because you're playing in the free play version. I mean, that might be it. Just reboot it as a full free to play game, so they didn't have to deal with the people who paid £40 for it. Because there's only about 25,000 of us apparently. So I think it might just be to make their lives easier, maybe. I don't know. It does seem weird to pull it when it's only just come out. They could have given it a bit more time. I don't understand it. It is weird.
What about yourself, Mr. Hoy? Where are you going with this one?
I think it's all down to the analytics and the numbers when it comes to this game. And obviously, we were waiting and hoping, fingers crossed, that, history didn't repeat itself in the numbers that we were seeing on Steam. But unfortunately, the PlayStation loyalists, not enough of them, spent the money and dedicated their time to play Concord. And as much as we fell in love with it, I think a lot of people got blinded by all the issues and problems and kind of the quality of life things that were probably missing in the game. So I think it's the right thing to do. I actually agree with what they've done to pull it right now. It saves the hassle, and I'm already seeing less people talking about Concord on Twitter. Obviously, the day it happened, it erupted. We wanted to talk about it. It was a huge thing, right? But it's not trending anymore. Fucking Dr. Disrespect is trending now because he's back online, right? The pedo's back. Concord is no more, right? No one's talking about Concord. And that's what needs to happen. It needs to disappear for a bit. No one needs to talk about it, and just give the devs that respect, that headspace to be able to get their shit together and fully realize the dream that they had. Because through these conversations and through the research Lurian had put together, it very much sounds like to me that, they had these amazing ideas and it kind of changed along the way for this and that reason. Maybe this is their opportunity to actually push forward with some of those ideas and as I said, realize that dream. But they just need to go away and live under a rock for a little bit, put their time and their effort into this game, and let's have a good Concord. I'll be there day one, regardless of what happens. But I'm excited for the future. But again, as you said, Davey, in your earlier segment, I don't want to see it for at least a year.
Yeah, needs to have a bit of a rest. Lewis.
So I was just curious, why do you think the Sony fans didn't support the devs? Because that seems to be a thing that everyone says Sony fans always support the devs. They always pay full price to support the devs. Game Pass is bad for developers and all that. Why do you think that no one supported the devs in the PlayStation community?
I think the answer is obvious. I think that rhetoric that they always just support blindly, whatever, it's just bullshit. Always has been bullshit. But it's just an easy thing to throw out that has no basis in fact. Because there's been loads of failures across PlayStation's lineage. There's been a fucking shit ton. And it's a complete bullshit thing. No one should blindly, and I certainly would never blindly just buy any old bollocks that Sony put out. It's got to speak to me, right? It's got to speak to me, and that is how people are. It's not that. It's a case of the game just didn't grab a lot of people. It's as simple as that. And that's it. So I think blind support is not good for anyone.
And slightly, Firewalk aren't one of the big names here at PlayStation. You know, if it was your Insomniac, if it was your Naughty Dog, and they were coming out with something, I think you would have a lot more loyalty because that had been built up previously. But with Firewalk, like, there isn't that kind of loyalty built up. You don't have fanboys of Firewalk, in my opinion. You know, like a lot of people, they love everything, you know, Valve does, or they love everything Riot does. I'm one of those people. You know, they love everything that, as I said, you know, Insomniac do. But I don't think you have those hardened Firewalk fans that will blindly buy everything. So that's why it wasn't there for Concord. They just didn't have that.
As you said, there's some studios that you just know. Like, anything Kojima puts out, we're going to be interested, right? We're going to give it a go. Like, it would take a lot to put us off that, because you think, well, he's cooked. He's always been cooking, right? He's at the fucking stove making a fucking masterpiece every goddamn day, right? Like, you'd have to find something really shit to be like, fuck, this rocked my confidence in Kojima. And it's that same thing. As you said, it's got to be earned. And you can't just come out of there and just because you're a PlayStation-owned studio, no one should have that blind level of faith. Like, no one. That's not healthy for anyone, that. It really isn't.
True. That's kind of what I was saying with Marathon as well, is because that's a Bungie game. I think that has more of a chance because people know the developer. So, yeah, I agree with that completely.
And so, the second question, our last one of the evening, and one that's going to end it, is from the homie Maloon, the guy who's been in the trenches with us every single goddamn day of Concord's life. He asks, if you each had to sacrifice a Sony published first or second party game, thank you for the second party, thank you.
Makes it slightly
Maloon,
easier for me.
to revive Concord at the Demon Altar, which game is getting burned at the stake? No duplicates. And he says, and he's such a fucker for this, and I was going to call him out on Twitter for this, but I thought I'm going to call him out on the episode. He says, can't be mine either. My pick is Destruction All-Stars. Right, let me first off just say, Maloon, you fucked me over here, because that would have been my instant pick is Destruction All-Stars. So you fucked me over, but I'm glad you said it, because now I've got to think outside the box a little bit here. So, Lewis, I'm going to come round to you first. First or second party game to revive... Oh, I know what you're going to fucking say. I know what you're going to say.
It's not going to be The Last of Us.
I know it's... Oh, you fucker. I know it's going to be...
The second this
Go
came
on,
out,
mate.
I was
Put
like,
me out my misery.
You know exactly what I'm going to say. In
on,
this
Lewis.
scenario, are we getting rid of it forever from existence? Is it just gone? I guess.
Yeah, I imagine it would be like a Doctor Strange thing, like where our minds are wiped of it.
I want to say The Last of
Concord
Us 2
revives.
so bad. I want to say The Last of Us 2 so bad.
I know you do.
Because it's so funny. I know you guys love it. I can't. Knack. I'll put Knack in there. Let's get rid of...
Oh, you
Knack.
fucker.
Alright, Last of Us 2
fucker.
it is. Last of Us 2 it is.
No,
then. Fuck it.
no. No, go with Knack. Take Knack, please, God, take Knack. I'd rather not be reminded of that fucking game. Go on, take Knack, mate.
Oh, I wanted to be evil so bad. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to you guys. I know how much you love it.
This is getting harder now, and I'm going to go last. So that's a great choice, Lewis. It's definitely the next low-hanging fruit that I think was there. So that's a really good choice. Go on then, Phil. What are you thinking, mate?
All right, I'm going to walk up to the Demon Altar. I'm going to wipe that Knack off there. And I'm going to offer up a game that I actually put in my Fantasy Critic this year.
Shit.
And it was a game that I would have said was anticipated by some and ended up being quite a middling game that literally no one ever talked about outside the people that maybe got paid to talk about it. You know, there's a couple of the PlayStation girls that, you know, stream a little bit of PlayStation, and I think they all got sent free copies, so they talked about it for a little bit. But outside that, I heard nothing about this game, and I've heard nothing since. So the game I'm offering up to the Demon Altar is Rise of the Ronin.
Oh, wow.
Now, who the fuck's going back to play that? It was a 7 out of 10 all day long by literally everybody. I can't imagine the numbers were big. This is developed by Team Ninja, so it's a big studio behind it. There was a lot of money, but I didn't hit fuck after that game came out. And we always talk about games that we've missed. We always talk about bucket lists. We always talk about backlogs, etc., etc. I ain't heard no one mention Rise of the Ronin. So for me, it doesn't even exist. Bring back Concord.
That's a great shout. It's a great shout. It was a game that I was surprised when you put it in your fantasy draft, because I was always thinking, I don't know about it. I don't know. Something about this just looks kind of mid. And people enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. There was a little bit of buzz on its release, but it's a fucking perfect shout, because I haven't thought about that game ever. Ever. Knew I wasn't going to buy it. Knew it wasn't going to be my
dead
cup of tea.
game.
Yeah.
Everyone wants Ghost of Tsushima too, right? They don't want Rise of the Ronin, all right? What is it?
I remember you guys were really hyped for that game before it came out, though. I was
hyped as my fantasy critic, and I
wasn't hyped.
No.
Okay.
It's always looked a bit mid, but it had potential. And I just think it just didn't realize that potential, because everything I'm reading is mid. So unfortunately, as I said, it's dead to me now. So it not existing wouldn't have mattered, and to have Concord back would have been welcome.
Well, guys, fortunately, Maloon didn't leave it at first party. So if he left it at first party, I'd have to be at this point. I'd be struggling a bit. I'd probably have to go for Drive Club or something, right?
That's what I was thinking. Drive Club, yeah.
Because there's the second party games here, I'm in luck. Because I can kill a game that I fucking detest and that I bought, and we've already talked about it once. Firewall Ultra. There's a second party game, and I would fucking sacrifice myself at the Demon Altar to get that fucking game wiped. That is the fucking worst purchase I have made in my adult life. There's only one game potentially that could be worse than this, and it's a game called Jersey Devil on PS1, and it's because I couldn't beat the second level. Just couldn't beat it as a kid. I couldn't figure out where to go, and didn't have the internet, so I couldn't search it, and it's probably painfully obvious, but I was too fucking dumb to figure it out. Firewall Ultra, I've gone on about it so much. I detest everything that game stands for. I hate it. I even hate the fact that when they came out and they had a fucking bullshit apology, do you remember that fucking shit?
Yeah.
Fuck
remember
me.
It all happening.
Oh god, this game deserves to be sacrificed, and even if we got nothing back, I'd be happy for it to go. So that is an easy pick for me. I'm glad that nobody else got that, even if, thank God you didn't pick that, Phil. I'd been scrambling, bro. If you picked that, I would have been scrambling,
I did
dude.
think of it, and I thought...
Maloon, I hope we've answered your question, and Lurian, thank you ever so much again for your support in providing this topic. We've gone a lot longer than I anticipated we would, but I hope, audience, that you've enjoyed it. This has been one hell of an episode, lads, and I am glad to have been on this journey with you. Audience, if you have enjoyed it, there's a number of ways to let us know. The first, of course, is you can go onto your podcast service of choice and put a rating on. The ratings are building, and we're still maintaining that 5-star metric. So if you enjoyed it, please go on and rate it. It does help us find a larger audience. If you listened on, or watched along, on YouTube and got to see our beautiful faces get more and more tired as this evening has gone on, then thank you ever so much for tuning in. Really, really appreciate each and every single one of you. Go on and put a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and put a comment on anything we talked through here today. We will make sure to respond to them. We don't read those out on the show, so if someone does want to take advantage of the fact that we do go through listener questions, number of ways to do it. The easiest way is to go onto Twitter, on X, and you can reach out to us on there, or you could pave the way for future people, and you can go onto our Discord, and you could say, Phil, I've got a question for the next episode. Can you make a note of this, put it in the doc? And I'm sure he will. And so that might be another way to get one in.
We might even have a channel for that. Ooh. But you have to join Discord to find out what that channel is.
We'll go on there.
I might just I might create it in a second.
It could be the same one that you can see the live stream of Lewis sleeping. So like the Big Brother house.
Oh, yeah.
Because we got that on there as well. So make sure to go along and check us out. And that brings episode 98 of In PS We Trust, a PlayStation podcast, to a close. I've been Davey.
And I've been Phil.
I've been Lewis.
Take care, guys.
Peace.
In PS We Trust is hosted by Davey, Phil, and Spencer. You can write into the show via our email, pswetrust@gmail.com. Our Twitter is @InPSWeTrust. To find each of us online, follow our Twitters, @SSJDavey, @PhilipHoy, @SpenPie_. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. See ya.